A controversial Supreme Court opinion rocking the country overnight. What you need to know about a potential landmark case being overturned. Plus, it's getting harder and harder to find a place to live right here in the Lone Star State. We're breaking down how Texas has an ongoing housing crisis. Well, it's been an interesting day across the Brazos Valley. High temperatures close to 90 degrees, a little bit further east, close to I-35. Some places close to 60 earlier today. Your Krhd News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
Well, it was an unprecedented leak of a Supreme Court draft opinion rocking the country overnight. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Garrett Hoddle. While not final, this leaked opinion suggests the conservative majority is set to overturn Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision guaranteeing federal abortion rights for nearly 50 years. As tensions rise in the Capitol and across the country, ABC's Faith Abube has more from Washington.
Overnight, hundreds breaking out in emotional demonstrations outside the U.S. Supreme Court, moments after a stunning leak of a first draft opinion suggesting a majority of the justices on the nation's highest court are set to strike down federal abortion rights that have been enshrined in law for almost 50 years.
If the rationale of the decision as released were to be sustained, a whole range of rights are in question. And the idea we're letting the states make those decisions would be a fundamental shift in what we've done.
The preliminary Supreme Court opinion, published by Politico, apparently shows a 5-4 conservative majority ready to uphold Mississippi's ban on abortions after 15 weeks. But the draft goes even further to overturn the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade decision and the 1992 ruling Planned Parenthood v. Casey that reaffirmed a woman's right to an abortion. Justice Samuel Alito, the apparent author of the opinion, writing, quote, "It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives." The unprecedented leak has already sent a jolt across the country, angering abortion rights advocates. Planned Parenthood with a scathing reaction saying, quote, "It's outrageous, it's unprecedented, but it's not final. Abortion is your right, and it's still legal." The leaked draft document coming as several states have enacted restrictions on abortion rights. And if federal protections are overturned, more than a dozen states are poised to join them, immediately banning abortions, despite a new ABC News Washington Post poll showing 54% of Americans do not believe Roe v. Wade should be overturned. And the Supreme Court just confirmed the authenticity of the draft opinion, but says it does not represent a final position of any member on the issue. Chief Justice John Roberts adds that the leak is a betrayal of the confidences of the court. In Washington, Faith Abube, ABC News.
Meanwhile, back home here in Texas, Roe v. Wade being overturned will affect the state's law on abortion. Last year, the state legislature passed what's called a trigger law that would outlaw abortions completely should they be given permission to do so. Overturning Roe v. Wade would effectively trigger this law, just like the controversial Senate Bill 8. The only exception to the ban is under life-threatening circumstances. The law would make performing the procedure a felony with a life sentence or fines up to $100,000. Roe v. Wade potentially being overturned has drawn mixed reactions from Texans. Some say this would be a huge step backwards. Others think there's still more to be done. Alicia Nespreto from our sister station KXXV has our story.
Pro-life support group Texas Values told 25 News they were thrilled to see leaked Supreme Court documents indicating a potential overturn to Roe v. Wade.
We 100% believe that Roe v. Wade should be overturned, and we're hopeful that this day will come soon. Texas is ready to support babies and mothers and families on this basic human issue.
But not everyone had the same reaction.
We believe in a Texas where every single person is trusted to make decisions for themselves and free to pursue the life that they want. Abortion is simply an undeniable piece of that puzzle.
13 states, including Texas, currently have trigger laws in place, meaning if Roe v. Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court, performing an abortion could become a felony. The only exemption to this would be if the mother's life is at risk. As long as abortions are still available, pro-life groups say their work is far from over.
Well, there's always more work to be done while abortions are continuing. And so we'll continue to work to see, abortions outlawed in all 50 states.
And as they continue their fight, so do advocates pushing for a woman's right to choose.
We have been fighting abortion bans since Roe versus Wade was put into place decades ago. That fight does not change. We will continue fighting for expanded, restored access to care.
Alicia Nespreto, KRHD News.
Now, if the Supreme Court rules the way the leaked document to Politico indicates, could Congress or President Biden do anything to protect abortion access nationwide? Our Joe St. George is taking a look at the options, including what's already underway.
All sides continue to rally on the steps of the Supreme Court as the country waits to see if the leaked opinion to Politico overturning Roe v. Wade will be the actual opinion of the court when the justices decide to disclose their decision. There's no indication of when that might be. While Chief Justice John Roberts has confirmed the leaked document is real, he also said it does not represent a final ruling.
Of course, it has been speculated for months that the Supreme Court could overturn Roe, which simply restores the authority to regulate abortion back to state governments. Conservative-leaning states will likely pass new restrictions. Liberal-leaning states will likely expand abortion access. However, one question being asked today, could President Biden, could Congress do anything to respond to the Supreme Court?
In short, the answer is yes. Democrats in Congress could try and pass a law to codify the right to abortion into federal law, starting an entirely new legal fight. However, it's doubtful Democrats have the necessary votes to do that right now. The Senate is split 50-50. Conversations have also started to change Senate rules so that abortion rights could pass in the Senate with fewer than 60 votes. For the moment, though, that appears to lack the necessary support, too. Meanwhile, down Pennsylvania Avenue, President Biden has already indicated he might try to do something on his own when the actual opinion comes down. He has directed his Gender Policy Council and the White House counsel's office to prepare options for an administration response. The president saying, quote, "We will be ready when any ruling is issued."
The pro-life movement is not going to stop.
Carol Tobias is president of National Right to Life, one of the largest anti-abortion groups in the country. Recently, she told me even if Roe gets struck down, her work won't be over. New legal fights will emerge, likely ones involving the White House. For instance, there's a growing push by women's rights groups to promote abortion pills that could be delivered discreetly in the mail. Stopping that, she admits, will be tough.
It will be hard to catch.
Abortion is oppression!
As for the time being, expect abortion to be a major focus of this year's midterm elections. Abortion rights supporters telling me this is going to mobilize some voters.
We really do hope that this draft decision leak really mobilizes people to take action.
In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
There's some promising news today about a country that there are worries may try to help Russia in the war in Ukraine. U.S. leaders have expressed concern that China might provide assistance, but now they say 2 months into the conflict, they have not detected any military or economic support from China. President Biden is preparing for a trip to Asia. The administration is also set to release its first national security strategy on China. Now, the U.S. is stepping up its efforts to help bring home WNBA star Brittany Griner from Russia. Her case is now being handled by a special State Department on hostage affairs. She is officially considered wrongfully detained. Griner was taken into custody at a Moscow airport in February. Vape cartridges containing oil derived from cannabis were found in her bag, according to Russian officials. She played in Russia during the offseason. Meanwhile, the league announced today it will honor Griner this season. Every team's home court will feature a decal with her initials and her number 42. The WNBA also said it will allow Griner's team to continue to pay her without accounting against their salary cap. The Federal Reserve is expected to raise interest rates again tomorrow to address record inflation, but there are also growing concerns about a possible recession. We're going to get answers on that and the immediate impacts that you can expect from yet another rate hike.
To many, Bryan College Station is considered the biomedical corridor of Texas, and today that corridor grew even bigger with the opening of a new state-of-the-art facility of Matica Biotechnology. The new 45,000 square foot GMP facility will be dedicated to the production of cell and gene therapies as well as vaccines for clinical trials. The new facility is located in the Westinghouse building over at Providence Park right here in College Station and will play a pivotal role in developing new therapies to battle diseases such as cancer and other childhood disease.
So the facility that you see behind us, as state-of-the-art as it is, as awesome as it is only to support smaller scale clinical trials. So part of our journey is, as our clinical clients then progress and mature into needing commercial production, we're going to be there for them.
And so far, Matica has added over 50 new jobs to the company in College Station with the hopes of growing even further along and cementing new relationships with both College Station and Texas A&M.
For us, I think the vision was there, but as a new entity, it required a lot of help, right? And College Station really provided all those components for us, and we're really proud of that fact. And we're using this as a springboard to go to other places and obviously expand here.
And Matica is hoping to grow its local workforce to over 100 employees, and Matica's parent company is Cha Biotech, based in South Korea. There's a new push to get more electric vehicles on the highways. The Biden administration saying it's going to give $3.1 billion to U.S. companies that make and recycle lithium-ion batteries. It's all part of the administration's push to boost the sales of electric vehicles. The money will help increase supplies. President Joe Biden has set a goal to have electric vehicles make up about half of all the cars sales in America by 2030. Now, the Great Resignation isn't slowing down. The Labor Department reporting 4.5 million people quitting their jobs in March. The agency says more workers left jobs in business service and construction. That's all according to experts at ZipRecruiter. More people quit if they were required to return to the office. Meanwhile, available jobs rose to 11.5 million. That's the highest level since 2000. Well, the state of Texas has been dealing with the housing crisis. Now we're learning Texas is one of the worst for renters. That includes right here at home. In-depth reporter Nick Bradshaw is breaking it down.
Here in Waco, as the train makes its way through.
No, I didn't ever see myself being homeless. The people here, these homeless people, they are my family.
It is now a crime to be homeless. If you're sleeping on the side of the road, man, it's actually, it's now an offense.
Under the 17th and 18th Street Bridge lies a spot where many homeless would call it a night.
Yep, I believe it's only a small misdemeanor, but with a small misdemeanor and a failure to appear, now you have warrants. Now you can be jailed at any time. Now it's difficult to go walk into a state building or a federal funded building because you're worried that instead of getting help or resources, you're going to simply further indebt yourself to the lack of it all.
This after Governor Greg Abbott signed into law making it illegal to camp on public property.
But you know what? You're cutting down trees. You're telling these people they got to move, which means what? They're coming closer to you. So whose fault is that? It's not theirs. It's yours.
So many now moving to private land.
You know, the sheriff, he's my bud. I love him to death.
But it was law enforcement along with the city of Waco that recently cleared this homeless encampment.
The police were kind enough to give everyone about a 30-day notice that everyone had to clear out.
We struggled to get over this man's stuff.
Be careful with that top there, it's got water in it.
It was late 2021 when we came to visit.
Anyway, I don't care, I'm happy. I'll sleep right here.
The signs of a tent city. But now this is what the area looks like. Even though the area has been cleaned out, there are still signs of people living here. You'll see a basket with clothes and shoes, and even signs of a recent fire. For some, they made a move off public property onto private land. So this is where you're living?
For a moment, yeah.
But now a housing crisis in Texas.
I mean, a lot of the housing and all that sort of stuff, those lines are backed up for ages, and I mean, it's just a lot simpler if you just go and make your own way, I guess, instead of standing in line somewhere.
So where do you sleep at night?
I sleep in the driver's seat.
Around 25,000 are homeless in the Lone Star State. When it comes to affordable rentals, Texas is considered among the worst. I know in Dallas that the city council is considering limiting the number of homes that real estate investors can buy. Is that a good idea, bad idea? What needs to happen?
1 in 5 home purchases right now is by a large institutional investor.
What a lot of companies are doing is turning these homes into rental properties, and the rent is not cheap.
It's going to be increasingly difficult not only for the working poor, but especially for the homeless to find housing.
Scattering everybody out of the system that they kind of had going for them is causing a lot more tension.
You know, it's not permanent, and everybody makes mistakes. Everybody falls short, you know. But don't look down on us because we're homeless. Things happen, you know, but God still loves us, regardless.
I'm Nick Bradshaw reporting.
Well, we're going to start off with our beautiful time lapse of our Clark roofing cam here in Bryan College Station. You can see clouds rolling in the area. If you walked outside today, you noticed it was warm once again. We were monitoring the potential for maybe another shower storm to pop in just north of it looked like Leon County early this afternoon. There's a chance we could see another one slip into the mix, but for the most part, bank on dry conditions going forward and a quiet evening. Lows overnight are going to land close to that 70-degree mark for the most part, upper 60s the further north you go. And then as we roll into our Wednesday, it's going to be warm once again. Highs landing close to that 90-degree mark. I think we're going to be mainly on the dry side. There is a slight chance for maybe a scattered shower or storm to move in the area, but the better chance is going to come as we roll into Thursday. Here's a look at our future track, which will take you through the rest of the night. Cloud cover moving through the area, maybe some stray potential for a shower storm, primarily towards places like Leon County, Madison County, maybe even Grimes, but we're going to be keeping an eye on all of the Brazos Valley. Wednesday morning, you'll notice that cloud cover begins to diminish as we head into the afternoon, and then our next system begins to work its way into the area. You'll notice this right around Thursday morning. This is at 10 o'clock, and you can see it beginning to creep and crawl into the Brazos Valley. This is that line of showers and storms. We're hoping we can get some pretty good downpours from these, but there is going to be some severe weather potential for maybe some of the hail and those strong winds as we go forward. In terms of severe weather, they're going to be scattered showers, so we're going to be keeping an eye on this. Our scattered potential for severe weather risk on Thursday. You're going to want to stay weather aware going forward, at least for the rest of the week. Let's take a look at our 10-day forecast, which will tell you the story the best of what to expect as we head into Mother's Day weekend. It is going to be a hot one, folks. Those high temperatures in the mid-90s will dry out after that system rolls through on Thursday, and then the good news is for next week, it's going to be, well, kind of accommodating in terms of not seeing those showers and storms, but it is going to be warm. Highs close to the mid-90 range.
The
U.S. State Department has officially classified Brittany Griner as wrongfully detained in Russia. The WNBA star and former Baylor Bear has been there since February. That's when officials found vape cartridges containing cannabis oil in her bag during a search. Now, what does this new classification mean? It means the Biden administration will now work, quote, more aggressively to secure her release. The same department working on Griner's case was key in bringing home fellow Texan Trevor Reed just last week. In related news, Russian President Vladimir Putin could formally declare war on Ukraine, unleashing Russia's full military as soon as May 9th. That's known as Victory Day over in Russia. In the meantime, there is relief for some Ukrainians, bus to safety, all after taking shelter inside a steel plant based in the besieged city of Mariupol. Gloria Pazmino has more.
Reunited at last. Evacuees from Mariupol's embattled Azovstal steel plant arrived in Zaporizhzhia by the busloads Tuesday. It's part of an ongoing effort to rescue thousands of Ukrainian civilians from the besieged city of Mariupol. While some arrived to safety, tensions remain high back at the steel plant where hundreds of civilians and soldiers remain. A commander for Ukrainian soldiers said heavy shelling continues at the complex.
We get civilians out of the rubble with ropes. It's the elderly, women, and children.
Meanwhile, U.S. and Western officials believe Russian President Vladimir Putin is one step closer to formally declaring war on Ukraine as soon as May 9th, known as Russia's Victory Day, commemorating the Russian defeat of the Nazis in 1945.
We've seen the Russians really double down on their propaganda efforts, probably, almost certainly, as a means to distract from their tactical and strategic failures on the battlefield in Ukraine.
An official declaration of war would allow Putin to fully mobilize Russia's reserve forces as efforts to take territory in the east and south continue to falter and manpower dwindles.
They have not achieved really any of the strategic objectives that Mr. Putin set out for, and the Ukrainians are fighting back stiffly, bravely, nimbly, skillfully.
I'm Gloria Pasmino reporting.
When we're faced with an obstacle, we can either tackle it head on or run away from it. Dan Grossman introduces us to a lifelong athlete who chose to run toward his issues, just not in the way you might expect.
This is just something I like to use as an outlet, and it's my way of training.
We say hindsight is 20/20. Interesting, because at least in the case of Aaron Yoder,
It's crazy, your reaction time's so much faster than when you're running backwards.
he doesn't look at what's behind him.
I mean, every once in a while I'll just take a gander, but when I'm doing sprints and all my training, yeah, you don't want to run. You don't want to look backwards.
When I go and run somewhere outside of Lindsborg, I definitely get some looks. Here in Lindsborg, I would probably only get looks if I was running forward, because everyone knows.
Aaron is the world's fastest backwards runner. It's a record he set in 2015 when he ran a backwards mile in 5 minutes and 54 seconds. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records if you want to check. Now I know what you're thinking. Why? Why this when Aaron could just run forward?
I think I pretty much tapped out on the forward running. I went as far. My God said you went farther than what I thought you would, actually. Well, he knows everything, so he's like, yeah, actually I knew.
It's because he has to.
These injuries, I've probably had every injury you could imagine, to a certain point where it was like I pretty much rode the donkey till it dies, as I like to say, and I just couldn't run anymore. And I was like, well, I have another opportunity here. All right, on to practice.
After several hyperextended knees and a torn meniscus,
those glasses just fell down. That's nice.
Aaron went to a doctor 10 years ago who said he was done. For a marathoner and college track coach who would log 100 miles a week, it nearly broke him. Until Aaron figured, why not give doing it backwards a shot?
It literally feels like I'm flying, because even if the sun's out and I can see, you don't really see your legs, they're kind of behind you, so you almost feel like you're a floating torso.
Aaron laughs, but the thing is, this is actually a thing. There are world championships. People want it to become an Olympic sport. And there are studies from the National Institutes of Health that show running backwards can be a better workout than traditional running, while eliminating impacts on the knee. But the physical effects don't keep pace with what this discovery did for Aaron's mind. At the time, he had lost his grandmother, a close friend, and was going through a breakup, all while the track program was in jeopardy.
There's a tendency, especially as Americans, to be forward-thinking and goal-oriented, and that's good, but by running backwards, it allowed me, and especially in that time, to not look at how far I have to go, because it's going to be insurmountable, but to simply look at how far I've come. What I had on my plate at that time, I'm like, I cannot do this. But then running back, it started changing. Just do what you can today.
You may laugh, you may scoff, you may think all of this is silly.
Now the competitive side comes out, I'm like, I'm gonna race this damn thing.
But Aaron's smile proves it took him going backwards to move forward. I'm Dan Grossman.
It's really impressive. Dan, thank you. Now, that gardening hobby that you might have picked up during the pandemic could benefit you more than just your family. The growing effort to get fresh food to more people in need and how you can get involved. Top in the newsfeed, could March end up being the high point of what's been called the Great Resignation? Job openings and the level of people quitting reached record highs that month, according to new numbers out from the Labor Department today. The shortage of workers is pushing up the amount of money that you can make per hour compared to a year ago. Now, with so many job openings, immigrants will temporarily receive extensions for their expiring work permits. This will take effect tomorrow. The government says the permits will be good for up to a year and a half after they expire under this new policy. There's currently a backlog of 1.5 million work permits. Now, it's been 4 years since the worst anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history, and today plans were unveiled for a memorial and museum to honor the 11 people who lost their lives at Pittsburgh's Tree of Life Synagogue back in 2018. More information on the building will come later this year. Poison control centers are warning about an increase in a dangerous trend. They say there have been dramatic increases in intentional poisoning for self-harm purposes with sodium nitrate. That is a form of salt that's commonly used as a food preservative. Consuming large amounts is highly toxic. It can be deadly. Poison control is concerned about the increases in poisoning and the increased accessibility through online vendors. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24/7 at the number you see right here on your screen, 1-800-273-8255. Now, months after our last COVID shots, many of us want to know just how much our immunity may have dropped off and whether we'll need more boosters. So tomorrow, what scientists are learning about antibody levels after a booster and how mutations will affect protection over time. But still to come today, some doctors say the way they talk about patients needs to change. How they say some simple shifts in terms that they use could improve care.
Well, nationally, there's been a camp counselor shortage, and that's affecting summer programs everywhere, including right here in the Brazos Valley. KRHD News reporter Diamond Dixon spoke with the Bryan Parks and Recreation Department to see how the shortage is affecting them.
We are facing a shortage in camp counselors nationwide and here in Bryan. Thomas shares that he's optimistic he'll see more applications come in before the end of May. With summer right around the corner, Thomas is looking for quality individuals to join his staff and become a camp counselor starting May 31st. They will learn the small things that have a big impact, like how to communicate and how to handle discipline.
You need a really good attitude, and you have to have what I call like a servant's heart, right? Someone who's willing to always put the best face forward, be the best mentor and role model for the kids.
Thomas says becoming a camp counselor offers you a flexible schedule, starting pay at $10 an hour, and the opportunity to impact the community. If you are interested in becoming a counselor, Thomas says you can email him directly. For more details on how to apply, visit KRHDnews.com. In College Station, Diamond Dixon, KRHD News.
Dinosaurs are fascinating creatures, especially for children. On tonight's Traveling Texas, longtime 25 News anchor Ann Harder is taking us to Glen Rose, the dinosaur capital of Texas.
It is exciting to imagine giant prehistoric creatures roaming this part of Texas, leaving their tracks in the fossil record. Here at Dinosaur Valley State Park, you can get a close look at what they've left behind for us to find and let your imagination run wild.
What child doesn't have a love of dinosaurs at one point in their life or another?
Asa Vermeulen is Assistant Superintendent of Dinosaur Valley State Park. His love for dinosaurs started early and never left him.
I did visit the park many times with my father, and I have pictures of me in the tracks as a little boy, about 8 years old. But at the time, I didn't know that going to school to be a park ranger was a thing. And so, boy, was I excited to find that out.
A brief trek across the Paluxy River brings you to the main track site. There you'll see the prints from 2 different dinosaurs.
We have Acrocanthosaurus, which is the one that's really easy to pick out. He's the 3-toed carnivore. Everyone thinks of Tyrannosaurus rex, a great-great-great-grandfather of T-Rex. Same body type, 2 legs, big teeth, very strong, powerful carnivore. Then we have Sauroposeidon pratellis. And so those are the more rounded saucer-shaped tracks that look kind of like a hybrid between an elephant and a duck almost. And he was a long-necked herbivore similar to Brontosaurus or an Apatosaurus.
These tracks are underwater, which helps to preserve them, but they are not considered permanent and could disappear.
We do our best to keep them clean and clear for everybody, but when we are always keeping an eye on the weather. In the winter, we keep water on top of them so that they may not freeze and fracture little pieces off as well. In the summer, there's not a whole lot we can do because there's no water to be found.
He says one track site from several years ago is gone now.
They are very fragile when floods come through. You know, rivers are a powerful thing that are very hard to hold back. So when we get certain floods, the water rages right through where we're standing and plows into the track site.
No doubt the dinosaur tracks are the main attraction, but the 500-acre park offers 21 miles of hiking trails, mountain biking and horseback riding, swimming and camping.
Always recommend making reservations, especially for camping, because we only have about 60 spots in the park. So reserveamerica.com and then search for Texas State Parks, Dinosaur Valley State Park.
Some 270,000 visitors a year come to the park. Guests like Susan and her husband, who left their home in snowy Colorado to crisscross Texas visiting parks. And they give this park rave reviews.
One, it's a beautiful park, and I wish really I had more time.
Well, so what have you seen that impresses you the most?
The limestone, the water that's so clear, the dinosaur tracks. And the campground, if you're a camper, is amazing. The sites are huge and it's very well kept. And the nicest bathrooms of any state park I've ever been in.
As they headed off on their hike, Susan's effusive praise of the restrooms and showers had me curious. Susan says, I've got to check out the bathroom, so here I go. Oh my word! How pretty! You got to see this.
You know, the restrooms are definitely a big plus. The most fun thing I do is I get to live and work in a place like this. I get to come out every day and see the excitement on everybody's faces and try and get them involved in these places.
So, come to Somerville County. It's a quick hour and a half outside of Waco to Dinosaur Valley State Park and let your imagination run wild. In Glen Rose, I'm Ann Harder.
There's a lot of power in words. Medical ethics researchers are examining some of the language used by doctors to better understand how it affects patients.
We called our article Presenting Complaint because we think this is our presenting complaint. Our presenting complaint is this is a terrible way of talking about things.
ER Dr. Zoe Fritz is with the Healthcare Improvement Studies Institute at the University of Cambridge in England. They recently published a paper highlighting what they consider to be outdated terms that they say belittle or blame patients. They highlighted research done in the U.S. on using the phrase substance use disorder instead of substance abuser.
And just that very simple change in language made people treat the individual patient differently. When they had pain, for example, they were more likely to give them pain relief. There's a real problem if you have a drug substance disorder of not getting pain relief even when you need it.
Dr. Fritz talked about other commonly used terms like patient discharge, presenting complaint, poorly controlled diabetic, when a woman is failing to progress during labor, or someone being non-compliant when it comes to taking medication.
And so instead of talking about that, where the patient then might just feel like the doctor doesn't understand them or is cross with them, they made a change where they said, what are the barriers towards taking this medication? And actually framing the language like that, they find out, well, the patient can't get to the pharmacy because they're working 2 jobs, or actually they have a lot of side effects that they haven't really investigated, or they started taking another medication and that interfered with their schedule.
Studies have shown that stigmatizing language can also make patients less likely to go to the doctor. Dr. Fritz has helped change language around end-of-life care. Instead of saying, do not resuscitate, they came up with a plan they call RESPECT, standing for Recommend Summary Plan for Emergency Care and Treatment. It is being used in much of England and also being adopted in other countries like Northern Ireland and Scotland.
It's not about do not do something. It's about respecting patient preferences and respecting clinical judgment and understanding there needs to be shared understanding there.
Dr. Fritz says they want people to contact them with suggestions on other medical language that they find problematic and make suggestions for changes so they start testing alternatives. You can email her through the University of Cambridge or find her on Twitter at Dr. Zoe Fritz. All right, we're seeing fallout over that controversial Alzheimer's drug Aduhelm. We've talked about it before. Biogen is replacing its CEO now and says it will abandon marketing the treatment. Aduhelm was the first new Alzheimer's drug in almost 2 decades, but doctors and experts say the evidence is weak, showing that it actually works. Now, some rural communities are saying the pandemic is one of the best things to actually ever happen to them when it comes to their economies because of the growth they're seeing.
We're trying to market a bedroom community atmosphere here.
Bringing a town back to life is never going to be any one business success.
How they're shifting their focus to attract people and the bigger impact that this is having on the economy.
And we're going to start off with our future track, taking you through Tuesday evening. For the most part, you can bank on cloud cover. There is some stray potential for maybe a shower storm to pop in the mix through the early portion of Wednesday morning. You can see clouds rolling through the area. By the afternoon, it looks like we'll start to clear out. And then the bigger story is going to arrive come Thursday when we're banking on the greatest potential for showers, storms, and potentially severe weather. You'll see our front rolling in here right around Thursday morning as we take you through our what should be a relatively uneventful Wednesday. You'll notice these showers and storms, though, begin to move into the northern portion of the Brazos Valley right around Thursday at 10 o'clock. Now, some of these strong storms could produce heavy downpours or strong winds and hail, so we're going to be keeping an eye on this going forward. It looks like by the afternoon is really when the most of this is going to roll through the area. The good news is, as we roll into Friday and the rest of the weekend, we are going to dry out in a big way, but there is going to be some scattered potential for severe weather, and you can notice that for all of the Brazos Valley here on our map. Going forward, our 10-day forecast lays out what you can expect, at least for the next few days as we roll into the middle portion of May. You'll notice high temperatures are going to warm up big time for our weekend, close to the mid-90s for our Mother's Day. The good news is by next week, it should be relatively uneventful, but it's going to be on the warmer side of things. Those highs stay above 90 degrees for each day here in the Brazos Valley.
The USDA estimates 130 billion meals get thrown out every year. However, Americans are still going hungry. AmpleHarvest.org has been working for years to facilitate food donations, so this doesn't happen. It's a national nonprofit that connects gardeners and hungry families to food pantries. Now, this gardening season, they're teaming up with Bonnie Plants and Home Depot, which are selling an easy-to-grow line of produce as a way to encourage more fresh food donations.
The idea is that when a gardener has woke up one morning and there's too much of whatever they've grown, that they can come to AmpleHarvest.org to find a food pantry in their own neighborhood that is eager to receive it, and then they donate it. And they can do that this year and then for the rest of their gardening life.
AmpleHarvest.org works with pantries in more than 4,000 communities in 50 states. It lets pantries create time slots for gardeners to drop off produce. Now, that ensures the food stays fresh, but also serves another purpose.
Particularly today, in today's economy, where my neighbor may have lost their job, lost their business, or whatever, and they're going to a food pantry for a while, that I could be showing up with a box of whatever wonderful stuff I grew. And they're coming to get their bread and milk and whatever and fresh food, and we're there at the same time. I'm embarrassed. They're humiliated. That's not necessary.
Now, he says access to healthy food has also proven to reduce healthcare costs. Research published in PLOS Medicine estimates $50 billion could be saved every year if Americans ages 35 to 85 ate a healthy diet. That's because it reduced the risk for things like type 2 diabetes, stroke, and heart disease. The new collaboration is connecting people under the hashtag #DonateYourHarvest. You can also learn how to get involved at the websites that we have right here on your screen. Now, if you're interested in gardening, the USDA is renewing a program that could help you learn. The People's Garden Initiative is aimed at using eco-friendly practices that support wildlife and local food systems. The USDA plans to launch gardens in 17 cities with plans to expand, but says any garden can be recognized as a people's garden. Now, they have to be collaborative, provide food to the community, and act as a wildlife habitat, as well as used for education. Education issues are getting a lot of attention as we head into the midterm elections, but students and teachers are questioning what politicians are focused on. We'll take a look at the concerns that they're hoping get addressed. Education has been a huge topic in political campaigns ahead of this year's midterm elections, but are they really addressing what parents, students, and school faculty members say needs to change? Vanessa Mashanya spoke with people close to this issue who hope that their concerns are taken seriously.
This is the Zoom to make the effect more real. Oh, there's me. Yeah, there we go.
High school senior Ramya Nabala is giving me a front row seat to the last 2 years of her life.
Immediately, my body's screaming at me, go outside.
Like millions of students, her school, extracurriculars, and social life were boiled down to this room and this computer. As she stared into the Zoom screen for all that time, she also found herself reflecting.
Why am I running this rat race, and why do I not feel good about it? Like, yes, I'm completing my assignments, I'm feeling like my grades are okay, but I don't feel that okay.
With the pandemic pulling back the curtain on a lot of these questions, it made her think about not only how the circumstances were making her feel, but how they were exposing what she sees as the pitfalls in education in general.
I had a couple of friends who they're busy taking care of their siblings. They weren't able to necessarily log on to Zoom, and so their home responsibilities trumped being able to attend school. Your background really came into play in terms of how the pandemic affected you.
Even though Ramya wrote the book on this topic, and I'm not kidding, she self-published a book during the pandemic. She says it is clear to other students how inequities in education impact their success. This, on top of other pandemic traumas, is creating a mental health and learning crisis among her peers.
We had to relearn how to be engaged in class, and that's still something we're recovering from right now.
School resources are stretched thin at a time when they're needed most. There's a nationwide teacher shortage. Federal data says 44% of schools report vacancies on staff, with 61% of schools citing the pandemic as the reason for those.
We're in an education crisis right now.
Scott Murray is a superintendent in Texas. He says this staff shortage is making it nearly impossible to address all the needs students like Ramya have pointed out.
I think politically, there are a lot of conversations around our country that our teachers become offended. Sometimes they throw up their hands. Why do I need to be in a profession that is constantly under attack?
With education being the center of campaigns around the country, many national conversations are focusing on critical race theory, banning books, and LGBTQ issues. Ramya says the fact that she and her peers' concerns are not front and center, it's concerning itself.
Critical race theory, while it definitely is an important, a significant thing to discuss, that's not something students are facing every day in the classroom. If you're watching other people talk about things unrelated to you, except, oh, it is related to you, and it's almost confusing because they're not the issues you want them to talk about. You're wondering, wait, why aren't they directly coming to us?
In a portable school office, parents in Austin, Texas are making signs for a rally to encourage their school officials to take their kids' mental health seriously.
Politicians, they really don't come and talk to us, the parents, and say how you feel about, how your school is doing.
This should not be a contentious issue. Any party should be competing for how much they can support public education.
As we get ready to cast a vote, educators, parents, and students hope their voices are heard. As for Ramya, well, she can't vote quite yet, but she is hoping everyone keeps education in mind when they do.
If we all push through, I don't hope, I know that this will improve.
I'm Vanessa Mishanya reporting.
Thank you so much for watching Krhd News at 6. I'm back tonight at 10. Until then, have a great rest of your evening.